Joyce, Recreation Programs Manager for the Town of Frisco Recreation Department.
Gary Wilkinson, Mayor of Frisco.
We're here today, Wednesday, March 11th, 2020, to host the Frisco Peninsula Community Meeting.
And tonight we're looking at future opportunities here at the Frisco Adventure Park Recreation Area. This has been a great asset for the town over the years. We've really been fortunate to be able to put a lot into the Peninsula Recreation Area the last few years.
We've been working on a comprehensive vision plan here for the Frisco Peninsula. Over the years, we've had many plans presented to us.
And now we're in our next phase of looking at how can we enhance that and what are the needs are in the future. We get more and more visitors, more and more unique recreation opportunities, as well as creating venues to take advantage of this beautiful setting that we have. So we're here to get some community input, and we're open to new ideas, so we have a path forward to how to best use this asset.
I think the difference in this is it's been a master plan. So they're rather, the town is thinking of the whole rather than the parts. And I think that's a great way to proceed. The consultants that you have hired have done a great job, and I think people will be excited to see the amenities that they have. It's kind of a concept of kind of a village, so to speak, of different types of activities that can take place here. So, no, it's very cool.
I think first and foremost in the community is trails. And I'd like to see the single track developed 100% all the way over into Forest Service land. And because, the peninsula is a nice place because it dries out early in the year and it stays dry late in the year. So this is our first and latest single track riding of the year. Second thing I'd like to see is development of the Nordic trails, and so that they're actually more to standard. And so that means wider and not on a side slope. So you have room to have a skate for skaters and for classic skiers all throughout the trail system. That includes up on Buzzsaw and on Jody's Nugget and all that kind of stuff. And that's going to probably require a little bit of bulldozing work, but that would be awesome.
My favorite things to do here are overall the tubing. It's really fun. I like to go with my family. And in the summer, I also like to go to the bike park with my brother and my dad.
Well, down here, we get an awful lot of traffic from the sledding hill, okay? And so it'd be nice to have maybe all the youth ski events take place at the top of the hill, up by the Boneyard area, for instance, and maybe that would be the area that summer and winter competitions are held, okay, is at the top of the hill. And then maybe a facility up there for all the youth organizations as far as the Nordic Ski Club and the Mountain Biking League and all that kind of good stuff, Yeah, I don't know. I think that the peninsula and the town is so centrally located that we could really host some really national caliber events out here that wouldn't jam up Main Street, but would still provide the business benefits of people staying overnight and things like that, and do that with the competition center.
I think that you should definitely put in an ice rink. That would be really fun because me and my family like to ice skate a lot. And I think it should be a combination so people can enjoy it in the summer and the winter.
Talk as is here. Thank you everyone for coming out here today. My name's Bram Barth. I'm the project manager on the project here. I am accompanied by Sean Guth. He is our senior architect on the project, and as mentioned before, we have all the boards set up. A lot of what you're seeing up on the slideshow is in those boards. We encourage you to stop by and give us your feedback. And that's really what today's presentation is all about, is we want to hear from you, and everything's on the table. If you like something, don't like something, if there's something we've forgotten that you want to get out there, that's what we want. But what we ask is that keep in mind, and you've seen this on all the boards, when you give that feedback, put it in the context of when the visitors come to this site. Ask yourself, ask them, how are you here to find your next adventure? That's really the theme of coming out here, whether that's an athletic adventure, an event adventure, a romantic adventure. You can really come here to find that next adventure. quick context slide. We all know where this, I mean, we're all here. We know where this is. But what we wanted to point out is, while we are looking at the entire peninsula as a whole, we are thinking in that context, we are focusing on what the town of Frisco owns. So our focus is down within those boundaries. More specifically, the design we were looking at was really focusing on this main pathway when you pull in off of Highway 9. Now, let's simplify the design a little bit more just from a physical perspective. There's three main elements that we were looking at as part of, how do we tie this space together, right? What's the rug in the room that really brings this space together? And there's three elements to look at. One is circulation, both the vehicular and also the pedestrian. The other are areas, spaces within the site, and then also the nodes, those central features that you are going to. Now, in this particular instance, the spine, the circulation pattern of the vehicular is following Recreation Way, but then we also have a pattern for pedestrians that goes into the site, but we also looked and explored the opportunity of creating a bypass path. So someone coming from the east or west, if they just want to keep on going and don't want to have to navigate those activities, they could get around it. But those two spines are physically what we're saying bring this space together. It's what connects the green space over at the Boneyard area. It's what connects this new event space area. It's what brings you to the central recreation village, kind of the gem of the Peninsula Recreation Area. It also brings you over to a different, more active area for skate parking, for the skate park and the bike park, as well as the sledding hill. Now, something else to keep in mind, we've noted that there are all of these nodes, and in this case, they highlight all of the buildings. Now, we are proposing some new buildings on the site. Sean will talk a little bit about, excuse me, a little bit more about those, and we want your feedback on those. Some may think great idea, others may say, well, I question that, and again, we want to hear that. The important thing to think about this, though, aside from the physical space, is the identity of the PRA. There's one of the boards back there that says, well, what do you think of when you say the Peninsula Recreation Area? And for just a moment, you don't have to close your eyes, but think of a place that is memorable to you. And I'm not going to call anyone out and say share it with us, but just think of that for a second. What defines that space? What creates a space? What gave that space, place, identity? We did the same thing here, both internally with our design team, and then also when we met with the advisory committee. And yes, as professional designers, we have a library of projects and case studies that we've done before. Yes, we have a whole repertoire of design background that we have, but at the end of all of it, the one place that we kept coming back to, the identity of the PRA, was your own downtown area. That embodied the idea, or at least a starting launching point for the PRA. So when we do that, we ask ourselves, well, what are those components of place? What creates that sense of place?
So your downtown main drag has a definite idea of what that sense of place is. And we're looking to bring that over into the park here along the main spine, as Bram described it. You have a great downtown walkable feel. You've got some beautiful lights, the architectural style. It has that sense of place. And we're merely trying to carry that through to the site. So where we're starting is at your two main entries. You need an arrival point. So we're really taking a look at what could happen to help let you know that you have arrived. And there's many examples that have been done to frame an entry, and monument signs, again, starting to brand the whole park through a wayfinding system. There's several options there, but as you move through and come into the space, you're going to have to understand how to navigate all the way through the park and get to that central location or to wherever it is in the park you're looking to go to. So we will be putting together a wayfinding package that not only helps you at the vehicular level, but is consistent down to the pedestrian level. And as you move through to enhance that sense of place, there's very simple things that can be done to frame the road. Simple as lining the roads with boulders. Very easily done, but it helps define that place and tie the whole park together. Other options are frame timber fencing. Again, a very simple element, but a very powerful way to bring some identity into the park. So I mentioned earlier, you're downtown, you have these beautiful downtown lights. One of the very first things that I was looking at with Bram was how those could easily be replicated here on site. You do have lights throughout the park that have opportunity for festive ornamentation to hang flags and planters, but I think there's a real opportunity to, again, tie this sense of place back to your downtown feel. This is part of the city of Town of Frisco, so we really want to connect the two. And then, of course, we have this building. What a gorgeous building it is. And the Nordic Center across the way there, and the yurt right outside. You have a sense of identity. Your architectural vocabulary has been established. So all the new buildings that we'll be proposing will be carrying that architectural feel through. You don't need to start from scratch. You need to continue down the path that you're already going. And even your pump house here, brand new pump house, has a great architectural style. It ties in with the rest of your building. So we're going to be looking to carry that through to, again, enhance that sense of place that you know you're at the PRA in the Frisco Adventure Park. So here's the overall site plan. This is kind of a Quentin Tarantino scenario. We're showing you the end result, but now we're going to take you back through and explain how we got you there. So Bram, why don't you walk us through if you were arriving at the park?
Yeah. Well, and that whole sense of place, that's something I want to emphasize. Those simple gestures are then carried throughout the park. That's really what kind of ties everything together. And now as we kind of walk through the park, we can really dive into those spaces. So imagine, if you will, you're coming down Highway 9, you've got your family in the car, and you're ready for a great day at the park. Well, the first thing you could potentially be seeing, you see this monumental sign marking the way to get into the site. Continuing that architectural vocabulary and the use of materials, it could be something like this at a grand scale that you can see from a distance as you approach the entryway. When you actually pull in then, you have an actual archway or gateway that you're walking through the doorway to the Peninsula Recreation Area. It could be something as strict and rigid, maybe as a form like that. Maybe there's a little bit more of a curve to that signage. Maybe it's just a full-blown pathway that continues to bring pedestrians, as I had mentioned, the bypass trail that goes around the park. They could be going over that roadway, and you really do gain that sense of coming in through a doorway. Now, that particular design is inspired by the mining heritage, the rustic heritage. Does it work? Doesn't it work? That's what we want to hear today. But that sense of arrival that I've come into the site is what we're striving for. And then once you are here, there's been some interest in establishing public art throughout the park. This is a place for recreational activity, but there's possible opportunities to put artwork along the trail. So when you first come in, one location off to the side, or maybe as you work up or as you work your way through the park, there's opportunities to do different types of art installations. Now, is this the right type of art? I don't know. That's something that we want to hear the feedback on. It also depends on the artist that you get. Maybe there's a whole different series of art pieces that get scattered throughout. Maybe something a little bit more appropriate would be Andrew Goldsworthy's type work, the natural use of materials that you can put and scatter throughout the site. But then as you work your way further into the site along Recreation Way, off to the right-hand side, which is now what's affectionately been termed the boneyard, potentially we can do something there that is more than just a storage area. Potentially we can come in and create an open green space that people can come to gather and picnic, bring their dogs, utilize that space more from a recreational standpoint, a way to find your next adventure. Now, being located right along this trail, it also holds the opportunity to put a trailhead, which could be restrooms, it could be an open air pavilion, some type of a gathering place that marks your entry. We focused on the entry for vehicles, but what about someone coming on their bike or walking to the site? That could be their point of entryway to the Peninsula Recreation Area. Moving then further into the site, we come up to what we're calling the event area. It's an open-ended use idea. It's not necessarily limited to one particular type of event, but there is a great opportunity, and the views are pretty amazing at this hilltop, to do some type of wedding setup. Now, what we've heard is we don't necessarily want the huge, large-scale weddings. We don't want the 500 attendee, even though the space may work for it. But this is an example, or this is a picture of the view of what you could have in your backdrop. Potentially, we do something as simple in gesture as an arbor. Just a very simple, subtle, because you don't need to enhance it. You already have the view. Setting up the chairs, and then have some type of a wedding event as that is your backdrop. And then after you're done with that wedding, you could walk down to that event venue to hold your reception. And keeping in mind that this is a potential revenue generating opportunity. The event center doesn't necessarily have to be limited to just weddings. It could be corporate retreats. It could be other types of events, but it's a sense of place that people can come to and help the park by generating that revenue. Sean, did you have anything on the architectural styles there?
So as I mentioned before, anything that we bring in out of vertical nature is going to be consistent with the architectural style that you have been developing here at the park, but also bringing in that downtown flavor. We really want people to understand that when they come to the park, they're in Frisco. This is the same, it's the same town. You know, your Main Street, coming down Recreation Way, it should have that same experience.
So then continuing, as you kind of come around that bend, one of the first things you see is the maintenance building. And it's necessary. Many, I think, would say that it's not necessarily an eyesore, but it's not what you're here to see, but you need to have it there. And we recognize the importance of that maintenance area. And we also recognize the need to fit it within the space. And so what we're proposing is beefing up some of the plantings and vegetation so you don't just necessarily see right into it. We're also talking about limiting the space with some type of a privacy fence, if you will, or an enclosed area, so it's still there, it still functions, it still operates, but as you're driving down the road, you're not looking right into someone's workshop area. That's the existing building right now, and then also expanding it to include some bay areas for equipment.
The idea here is, many of you may have had the experience where you get a new workshop, or you've got a garage and you want to set up your workbench and you've got a place to do projects and you have all your tools. Well, a lot of time you don't go to that extra step, one step further, to get the storage bin to put all your tools away. keep it organized. It's the same concept here. This will help the functionality of the maintenance facility and also keep it a little bit organized. And driving in today, there's a couple feet of snow over their laydown space, and I'm sure there's some stuff in there that they would like to get to. So this is one of the buildings that we are proposing that we think will be very essential to enhancing the operations of the park. And it's a very simple structure that can have a tremendous impact of the overall operations.
And that's a good point. What Sean talked about, that sense of structure. Two Below Zero has their wagon and their sleigh ride opportunities out here. Great opportunity. I have not done it yet, but from what I've heard, it is a blast. But let's try to maybe provide some more design structure, that sense of place to that. So creating an actual ride plaza. People who come to the site can park here, but then there's a whole sense of arrival to that. There's a gateway, there's a plaza that you wait, there's a platform that you walk on. It becomes a whole experience with you and your families, not just necessarily, say, a makeshift, we just did what we could. It is very structured in that. And you can go out, I mean, I don't know how many people have actually been on those, but you have the summer ride opportunity. You have the winter sleigh ride. You can even go out in the middle of a blizzard and go around. So, keeping with that same idea, we mentioned the idea of a pavilion. A pavilion, for those who don't know, is just going to be an open air structure. It's a place where picnic tables could be set up. It is not enclosed. There is no type of mechanical equipment controlling the environment. It's a picnic shelter, basically. They can also be rented out. We had mentioned the opportunities for revenue opportunities. These pavilions that have been scattered throughout the site could be housed to generate revenue for the site. And the architecture and the structure to those can be very rustic and simple, using the wood timbers. We can also start introducing different types of materials with stone. So now we've gone through the site, we've gone around the bend, we've come in. This is what we see as the gem, the crown jewel of the Peninsula Recreation Experience, the Recreation Village. It is a central space formed by 4 main buildings: the existing Day Lodge, the Nordic Lodge, an activity center, and a new building that we'll talk about here in a bit. But between those 4 buildings, we create this sense of outdoor space where all sorts of activities are starting to take place. Now you can see some of those labeled in here, but you can get there via parking your car and walking over. You have the pedestrian pathway that goes right through it. You also have the opportunity with the existing infrastructure that's out there to reach out and have a bus come in and bring people right into the middle of that space. Add anything?
Well, continue on.
And to get an idea of that space, this is actually another project we've done. Sean's he was part of it. He wanted to, or it's going to talk about it.
So this is an example of a mountain town in the Smoky Mountains that came to us asking about what they could do to generate a local space that has the overall feel of their community. They have a distillery there. That's their main tourist attraction, that a lot of people come into the hills of Tennessee and want to have that experience. So what we did for them was create this study to show what that village concept could look like. You can see all the buildings have the same architectural language. It's a little bit of a nod to a distillery concept, but there's a high energy level there. There's a lot of activity. It is that central point, and that's what we're looking to do for you.
Mm-hmm. So this is a quick rendering example. This would be taken if I was, basically standing right outside this window looking back towards where the drop bus off area would be. The existing Day Lodge where we are is right here off to the left. You can see a potential bus driving up for your drop off. The new building located off here in the background next to the yurt. We had mentioned some of the public art opportunities within these beds. We may have opportunities to get some type of a permanent exhibit. It could be a traveling exhibit, but it kind of adds to that character of the space. You can see in the background, we do have an ice rink proposed. People can get out there, and it's a great opportunity for people watching. I know I've got an ice rink that's just right outside of my office, and I don't admit this to the president of the company, but I sit there and I watch them sometimes. So. Opportunities then again for the bus to drop off. The public art, don't really know what that is, but it's in a bed, so we thought we'd put it up there to show you. But then also these gathering opportunities. Maybe you just want to come out, do some tubing after you've done some Nordic skiing, and just sit down and enjoy meeting and being with people. Sitting around a fire. A larger fire, something like this. Maybe you pull up the Adirondack chairs and you just sit there and you spend the rest of your afternoon sitting out there watching the tubers, watching the ice skaters, talking about that public art. It's a dynamic space where people can really come together and just have a fun day at the Peninsula Recreation Area. So we talked about the ice and roller rink. In the summer, it could be a roller skating venue. It could just be left in open space to come in and set up tents or booths or do some types of activities. During the winter, it could be an ice skating opportunity. And it could be done during the day, potentially set some things up at night. This is almost a perfect shot. This is your bus drop-off area. This is the new building, the existing day lodge back here. Your tubers are up here, and you have this ice sheet with all the people just sitting around watching. Does it have to be a circle ice rink? Not necessarily. Maybe it's an ice trail. Maybe there's a loop that people can go around with bulbs that stick out so you can do different types of ice skating maneuvers and activities. Maybe you extend things over the space so it's not just a simple ice sheet that you're just skating around. It's this unique opportunity to go out and share fun with your friends and your family. Of course, we've got the tubing hill. One of the biggest events going on out here, but what about the opportunities of expanding that to be a ski and ride? And right now, from what we're seeing, that tubing hill needs another magic carpet. The bottleneck keeps happening. There are so many people that want to come out here that acts as a bottleneck. Potentially, we could put a second one in and really expand those opportunities. Going now then to the other side of the street, we talked about the activity center. At this point, the activity center is intended to be an open-ended programming space. Now, Sean, talk a little bit more about that.
Through this process, we met with many different use groups of the park here, and looking at what's going on in the Nordic Center currently, and it's heavily utilized. I think everyone here understands that and can agree with that. And there's significant opportunity to expand upon that, but right now you're physically limited by space in that building. So we had our conversations. We understood what the wants and the needs of what could go into a bigger facility, of how to really expand that use. And one of the things we're proposing is this idea of a new activity center. It wouldn't be a new Nordic Center. Everything that we're looking at here and proposing it has a multi-use component. It has to serve multiple purposes and be able to adapt different seasons, different events, different programs. So this activity center could house some of the wants of the current Nordic programs, build upon the summer camps for kids and the winter training programs, and go ahead and you know, I put this picture of the day lodge in here because, again, I really want to stress you guys have been working hard. Every time you add a new structure out here, you're very sensitive to the architectural style. And I think we would definitely propose carrying this style across the street to, again, frame that plaza with two bookends that relate to one another. So that activity center, I want to stress, it would be a multi-use building, a flexible programmable space. There's a lot of possibilities. It is strategically located in our site plan right adjacent to the multi-purpose field. Right now, your Nordic Center has the back porch that opens right out to the field, and we would be looking to carry that forward. Again, in the summer programs, go ahead and here's a picture of coming out the back of the Nordic Center. But your summer programs, you can support whatever activities happen in that multi-purpose field out of the activity center. And we're not proposing do away with the Nordic Center. That is a tremendous structure. That has a lot of value. It is a great opportunity. It's very flexible as it's set up right now. There's opportunity for smaller meetings just like this in there. Corporate events, rental possibilities, birthday parties. There's a lot of value in that. So I want to stress, please don't think that we're proposing doing away with your amazing Nordic Center. We're looking to enhance the programs and open up new opportunities for the town.
Yeah. And it's that option and opportunity for the new adventures. We had opened by talking about, yes, there's recreational opportunities to go out there, but potentially that a birthday party for a 5-year-old is their definition of an adventure. So having a place that they could potentially...
Also an adventure for the parents.
I want to take also this moment then to jump back onto the other side of the road to talk about this new building. Right now, all of the administrative operations are housed out of this facility. All of the workers, well, the majority of the workers right now work in the basement. There is not a single window in that basement. There is amazing views in every direction, and on the average day, they don't get to see that. There is also storage that is going on down there that they have to work around. The building itself and the setup of the building is not conducive to house every single one of those operations. At the same time, the tubing hill has storage for all of their tubes that right now you can actually, I think, see it out the window, is housed in not temporary facilities, but definitely not a structured permanent way of storing those tubes. This new building would try to accommodate all of those operation features. Now, is everything going to move over there? Not necessarily. We may still be able to balance those operations in the day lodge, but the idea is this great venue space that could be rented out on a regular basis, we don't want that to be hindered because office space is taking up all of that area. Did you have anything else to add?
Again, the idea too about these new buildings is looking to the future growth. As the town begins to add additional programs to the park, you're going to have additional staff. Right now, they're at max capacity with their current facilities for the operations, the staffing, the storage. There's no room to grow and accommodate all of these potential additional program items that are revenue generating opportunities for the town and to enhance the experience here at the park. So there's been studies done in the past. It's gone as far as drawings for this new building. We analyzed all of that, and we've been looking at that location, that program, what could go in there, what should go in there, what shouldn't go in there. We've approached this from many different angles, and we do believe that a building that can help maximize the operation potential of this park would work very well in that location. And again, it helps frame the recreation village, that plaza.
So, jumping back then now to the other side, if the ice roller rink is the people watching space of the south side, the playground then becomes the people watching space of the north side. I don't know about you, but I can spend hours just watching kids play around and do the craziest things on playground equipment. The day just goes by. I've got a daughter of my own who right now is almost 2, and the day flies by just watching her run around the yard. And this playground, in keeping with the context of adventures, we don't want to just go pick something out of the manual of some playground equipment vendor provider. This is a unique playground. There's a nature theme. There is something more to it than just those simple pieces of equipment, whether it's tree houses and rock climbing, to actually, a lot of the playground places out there do custom designs that bring that nature theme into their playgrounds. Our last stop then, before we leave the park, moving to the western access area, is the creation or the designation of a new type of space that is removed from your village, and it's housing the skate park, another playground, another pavilion, and then a more structured entryway to your bike park. The existing skate park, everyone I'm sure or is aware, out back or out to the side there, heavily used, a great feature of the site. The playground then, we talked about the nature theme for the north, but right now there are outcropping rock structures that kids play on, potentially expanding more on that theme, more rock structures, maybe going a little bit further with that theme, or maybe we expand it beyond just simple rock climbing structures. And then having a more formal entryway actually into the bike park, that creates that sense of arrival to the space within the space. You've come to the Peninsula Recreation Area. Now that you're here, you're going to enter the bike park. And then lastly, looking over to the makeshift sledding hill, what we heard is that this is kind of an impromptu space for people who come to Tube for the Day who can't get in. They go over and do the sledding. It's a great way to come here and have a side event to go on to, but again, there's no sense of structure to it. It's just a hill that people have gone over to, so proposing an overlook that people can be sledding down the hill and more people looking out over that. The views also to the mountains from that overlook. It's kind of a mini version of this larger rec village where we can come in and we can set up temporary food kiosks. If you can't get to the tubing hill, come over, do some sledding, eat some food, get a cup of hot chocolate, and just enjoy the day on that overlook watching sledders. And then maybe when you can go over to the other side, it's there. So that concludes the tour of kind of walking around through the site here. This again is the overview. The boards, the main overview boards are over there by Nancy. We do also have the enlarged areas. One thing though that I did want to point out, we designated this as the trailhead green space, the boneyard area. This area right now is an area we want to hear more about. We've analyzed, we've talked to people, we've got some concepts out there. We haven't presented them all today just for sake of time in the group, but we do have a board of this aerial over there. And we'd like to hear some more feedback about what could go over there. What do you like? Should it just stay as is? It serves its purpose? Does it play a role in the recreational adventure of the Peninsula Recreation Area? What do you think? Comments, please. And again, thank you for your time. If there's any other questions, I think we're going to be posted around. Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you, Graham.
Yeah,
thanks everybody.
So there's an overview.
So I like it because I live about a half a mile from here, and I can jump on my mountain bike and ride over and enjoy the trails. I also participate, which isn't really the peninsula, but the lake, the Frisco Marina. My boat is at the marina, and that's a quarter mile away. What I would do differently, obviously there's some parking issues here from that standpoint. I'm more relative to the marina and having a real restaurant, not over here in the peninsula. Keep that pretty nice and without too much more development would be my thought process.
Yeah, thanks for asking. The immediate impression is I'm really excited for our community and our big turnout tonight. There's a lot of people here, more than I expected. So I think that's really great. Good job, Frisco. I love how focused the town is on listening to all of us and getting that feedback and making sure it's not a top-down decision, but it's a community-driven decision. That's really exciting to see this going through the different steps and having you guys really hear us. A lot of discussion tonight. I think there's, strong opinions, some collaborative and some conflict. But I think it's important you guys just keep listening and get us, get all these ideas together and have town council make a good idea. But I'm excited to see some changes here and maybe increase opportunities for revenue and relieve pressure in some of these areas.
You know, it's pretty amazing. Number one, I loved how many people turned out for it and the diverse crowd, which means that there are so many people really invested in kind of the next steps of this peninsula area. I think it's really, it really reflects on how involved everybody is. So I thought that was pretty cool. The presentation was amazing. It really showed, I felt, a wide variety of possibilities. And they did a good job of really kind of separating it out. I'm excited for everybody to really see kind of all the different shots that Brad took on it, because there really are, the way that you guys set it up was neat, where you can kind of look at, one aspect of it, move to another area, and focus on that in and of itself. Looks like there's going to be a lot of open space, a lot of place for people to gather and watch people in the open space, and then some of the newer ideas. I saw the ice rink, which I love. We saw some new buildings as possibilities. I think mentioned was some recreation buildings. And certainly an area for people to gather if they want to have a function, whether it's a wedding or meetings, corporate retreats, I think was mentioned as well. So it's just, I think all in all, my take on it was really the diversity that could actually be implemented. And so I don't know what the next step of the process is, but I think as it goes through, it's going to be amazing to see what people kind of start to hone in on. Well, it's interesting. It really is cool, and I'm assuming that people are going to have a chance still to give their input. Like tonight, what you got to do is take these little sticky notes and put them, depending on where you were looking, you got to put sticky notes with suggestions. I saw over there for the Boneyard area, a drive-in movie theater. So like a pop-up screen with a drive-in. What a great idea. And so some really creative ideas that people are popping up with in and of themselves, and I think it's going to be a really fun process for you guys.